I know it isn't.
For those of you German nationals, I apologize if that wasn't the actual anthem, but Allison, what did that last chaos? Completely agree. And that's what we saw when we first came to this big problem. Like 5 weeks ago, we couldn't do it. I don't know my name. Flora, Patricia, and Keeney-Bonthrone, but none of us are from it. And so we knew about the national anthem, and we were hearing this story and now it's what was happening at home. So we started really wondering what to do about it. I'll say right now, we're talking to you as our class system inspectors, and also we'll be addressing you a bit like our members of parliament, so you'll be able to connect with the class. And what we decided to do today is to look at fundamentals, because in reality, none of us are experts in public policy, none of us are experts in economics, none of us are experts in geopolitics. But we learned about systems during our class is that there are basic fundamentals about how to look at problems and reveal things that challenge the fundamental assumptions about how to go about solving these problems. And so that's how we do it. So where we started, looking at the purpose of the European Union. Why was it founded in the first place? Why does it exist today? The three major reasons we found were for economic prosperity of the region, social stability of both the internal and the external climate, and the global competitiveness between the United States and China and other leading economies. Europe as a whole is together. And so that sounded pretty important to us. And as we looked at this system, there were some things that challenged Europe's ability to do this, and it was confusing. It's almost as though there were subparts of the system challenging the purpose of the whole. So Carl's going to tell us a little about what our process was.
Process for analyzing the systemic are from the EU. You can appreciate that we basically started from scratch and had a lot to do, a lot of research. We have to make sense of all this research that we did. To see some major recurring themes in the different articles that we were reading and discussing. So after putting our heads together, finally, we were able to create a map that looks something like this.
Anyone's map on the first day look like that? No, just ours? All right. Well, this is what systems thinking gave to us on our first day. And I'll remind you, 5 weeks to do this. So there was a bit of a mess that we started with. And we said, what do we do with this? Still a cacophony. We have loops and flows and all these technical terms from systems, and we don't know what to do with it. And so we brought it back to fundamentals. And the next chart may look familiar to it all. 3 parts: political, social, and economic. And this helped bring some clarity to the problem that we were looking at. And, we broke it up into pieces. We don't have time to go through it all today because we only have 10 minutes, 10 plus minutes. So what we're going to do is dive into each of the little pieces here. But you'll see that there are lots of key issues that we identified in the system at a fundamental level as something that's challenging Europe's ability to serve the purpose that it originally had. And so, who's diving in first? Go ahead.
Now, to show an example of the recurring themes that we found during our research, let's zoom in on a very small part of our map, which is the austerity measures. I wanted to highlight the effects of the austerity measures, especially to the member states, the likes of Greece. When Greece was bailed out by the ECB and the IMF, it came with a condition that they will be under stricter budget controls, looking to reduce government spending and raising taxes in order to be able to create surpluses to pay off their debt and narrow their deficit. However, a solution like this applied to a country that's already in deep recession could only worsen the situation. With the government drastically reducing their spending, we saw the unemployment rate rising rapidly. Paired with sky-high tax rates because of the austerity measures, many Greeks found themselves struggling to keep up with the demands of daily living. The reduced spending power of the citizens directly affects the stability of a member state's economy. This was a trend that we saw when analyzing the member states in recession. However, the situation was beginning to seem like more than a financial crisis for the Eurozone. It began to trickle down to the social level, which Chris will talk about.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, as I said before, this is just a zoom-in part of the whole map. My part was the social crisis. If you guys want to discuss more about the other parts, feel free to, we can put the map in the Q&A and we can get more technical.
Grab a drink later.
Actually, I really enjoyed the mechanics of the actual class, but since Nick said I'm not, nobody hears from the European Union, one of the most important ideas that I thought about was, okay, so you have a union, you have a purpose, but what binds it all together? What makes you passionate about accomplishing that goal? Like I have patriotism for my country. I don't have a nationalistic attitude, but I have patriotism. Like if we go on a recession or a crisis, I will be able to follow measures how they're supposed to be followed. I will be able to adapt because I'm committed to a purpose. And what we could see, so I recognize this lack of constitutional patriotism, and as I asked Jorgo, like, what do you think about constitutional patriotism? And he said, well, it exists, but it hasn't been developed. So we can see some forces that fuel that lack of constitutional patriotism that actually come from even the same social crisis, which is social unrest. The more the people is stressed, the more protest you see, the more rejection is going to be shown against this idea of patriotism. Now, the most important part of this map is this negative reinforcing loop. And why is that? In order for the actual political purpose to be fulfilled, there has to be a level of political participation from the citizens. And that is driven by the actual constitutional patriotism. So, as this decreases, the voter turnout will decrease. As the voter turnout decreases, the loss of interest in political participation will increase. And as this increases, lack of constitutional patriotism will be affected negatively. So, that negative reinforcing loop, as we all know, is going to tend to make patriotism disappear, if there is any. So that is one of the most important areas in the social crisis that needs a type of intervention.
And before you go, Flora, I think one of the other things that each of these, the reason that we picked each of these examples